All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is episode number 1. Here we go. Here we go. So me and Andrea were talking before this episode, and we're just really excited to make this topic our first episode. And we chose the topic of judgment. Judgment is big, right?
Huge.
And comparison. And I think they really a lot of times go hand in hand. And I was thinking about this on my drive this morning and thinking about, just putting out a podcast. You're going to be judged for it, right? People are absolutely going to judge our first episode.
Right.
And I came to the realization that the doubt that you have, the indecision that you have, and the inaction that you have is really what's killing your dreams, goals, and results. Way more than the failure, right? Folks, we are going to have some episodes here that are absolutely going to flop. Are you ready for that, Andrea?
Well, see, then I just started judging myself when you said that.
Exactly. And that's a judgment. Even the ones me saying they are going to flop. So it's just starting to change the way that we think, the language that we use, and the judgment that we have. So let's just break down judgment in a nutshell. There's really three ways that we judge, right? So the first way is we judge ourselves. That's a big one. That's a big one, right? Then we judge others. And sometimes, and we'll get into this, but sometimes we do that without knowing we do it, and we do it in our heads. And then we judge circumstance. So we have to be aware of, what are we judging? What are we judging? So Andrea, what do you feel like is the one that was the hardest for you? Or there may be different ones as you've evolved, but
well, it doesn't matter if you're judging yourself, others, or any kind of circumstance. It's all you're sabotaging, right?
bingo.
You're self-sabotaging. Yep. So, when I think about that, I would say at different phases of my life, I was probably at a younger age, definitely of others. And before we got on, I was reflecting, and I thought, do you remember before you became a parent and you're in a restaurant, right? You're in a restaurant Huge. And you see that little kid and he's just miserable. He doesn't want to be there, but you're so put off by it. And you think, why are his parents just not doing anything? Yeah. And then you become a parent and you realize
it's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Or the little ones running around, the ones that are just running around. You're like, what? How come they're not sitting? Or then you have the other ones that like the phone is in front, of them, and you're just like, wow, I can't believe they're, but then you become a parent and things shift massively for you. Right. And for any of you that are listening that are not parents, you're like, what are they talking about? And for those of you that are, you totally get what we're talking about. Right.
Right.
So it's being aware of the judgment is the first step to this puzzle. So you have to be aware of, and one of the things that Andrea and I have done is really just look at what do we tend to do during the day, right? So just take a day and really look, are you doing a lot of judgment of yourself? Are you doing a lot of judgment of others? And a lot of people think they have to be doing that out loud. It can absolutely be in your head. I know that was me. And then are you judging circumstances that you're in or others are in, or that you're just stuck in right in that second, right? And just start seeing, and this is the hardest part, do that in a discerning way. So don't judge your judging.
Yes.
Careful of judging your judging, folks, because that's what your mind does. Your mind starts judging like if you have this boom, aha, you're like, oh my goodness, I was totally judging. I can't believe I do that. What is
Right.
wrong with me? Right? Like you get into that whole thing. So this is all the mental saboteurs and the judge in your head, right? We all have this
Mhm.
judge that follows us around. And Andrea and I have been going through our mental fitness coaching program, and it's made a huge difference in helping us really see this judge and the saboteurs in our mind, and that and really
Mhm.
how it's stopping us and stopping our clients.
Right.
And when we think about the weight of judgment, right, this is all about releasing the weight of judgment and comparison. It's it can be heavy, folks. It can be really heavy how much judgment we put on ourselves every single day,
Right.
right? How much
Mhm.
judgment, how much comparison. A lot of the clients I work with, there's so much comparison of what they're doing versus what others are doing, what others are able to do versus what they can't do, what they can't eat, what they can't have, and we get away from the can'ts, because
Mhm.
that's the thing that's really blocking us. Our focus, we are where our attention is. So our focus is throwing us off because we're so focused on the comparison of what everybody else is doing and what we need to do, because you're your own person,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. And how are you really going to take any kind of action in your life if you are in your head running that script?
Hmm.
And every day you're presented with all three things that you could fall into judgment. I mean, it could be, um, I'm going to be happy when I can
Mhm.
afford this purse, or I'm going to be happy when I can fit into those pants, or, but if you're constantly, I mean, it's good. I will say this. A lot of women and guys probably too will say, well, that thought process is actually what gets me going.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's my motivator. But when you stay in that place, it's really, really difficult to have the drive and long-term sustainability to get to that goal, because you have to be really happy where you're at first and kind of
totally.
find that silver lining of, okay, like I'm here, and be excited for the journey versus just thinking about getting there, because what's going to happen when you get there?
It's a huge point. You get there and you're not happy, right?
Mhm.
Because you're the entire time it's been this judgment and this comparison this whole time. And that, I mean, that totally happened to me. I was running this gym. It was
Mhm.
becoming successful. We had a ton of members. And I
Mhm.
got to the top of what I thought was the mountain, right?
Right.
Mountaintop. I'm successful. Everything's great. And it wasn't. It's just a really frustrating, sad place to be.
Right. Right.
So I think
Yeah.
the point that you just made is so key, that you may feel right now that the judgment that you have of yourself, or your circumstance, or that judging and that comparison stuff is actually helping you, right?
Mhm.
That's how the inner sabotage and the inner dialogue works. That's
Right.
how it tricks you.
Right. It's like that old story of, when we were younger, don't touch a stove, don't touch a stove, don't
Yep.
touch the stove.
Yep.
But that's what we need to do
Until you
with.
do it, you're like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, that's hot. I should not touch that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing with this, in that situation.
And what happens though is that people keep touching the stove
Mhm.
over and over and over again, because there's that subconscious program that we are habitual humans, folks, and we run on patterns even when they're painful, even when we're in a bad place in our life, even when we're doing things we know we don't want to do. I mean, Andrea and I work with clients all the time. They're eating things they know they shouldn't be eating because it
Right.
hurts them, right?
Right.
They're, not getting the sleep that they want to get, right? They're not, exercising as much as they want to exercise. They're not doing whatever they know they want or need to be doing. And that's when the judgment creeps in.
Right.
It's like, why didn't I do that? What the hell's wrong with me? Blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And we want you folks to remember that there has to be empathy in there. There has to be empathy in there. And you might be like, well, why should I empathize with yourself? Because a lot of this is happening without even you thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're just doing this stuff. Think about it, folks. You wake up in the morning and you pretty much do the same thing every day. You get out of bed or not. You stay in the bed and look at your phone, right?
Comfy's comfy.
Comfy, right? And then you go and you do the same thing. Either use the bathroom, you get some water, you get some coffee, you do whatever, right? And then you're continually repeating these same subconscious habits. And your mind does that because it keeps things in an ordered sequence, right? But when you're trying to break a pattern or a habit, I mean, let's use the habit of judgment right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're trying to break that habit, the first thing you have to do is become aware that it's happening.
Stop the cycle.
It's wild. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That awareness.
And do it without judgment. Discern, right? Just become aware of it and look at it from, you know what? I was just judging. I was just judging myself. Okay, let's move on from there, right? Like let's get past that. Empathize.
Right.
And then
I
move into
remember
something else.
I remember a while back, there was this big movement on social media, which we can get into that too, like the biggest playground of Judgment City, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's real and what's not. And I remember somebody had put out there, try to see how long you wake up tomorrow morning and when your feet or when your eyes open, because sometimes it happens that judgment can creep in before you just open your eyes and there it is, right? How long is it before you're either judging your circumstance, others, or yourself?
That's a big one.
Keep track of it throughout a day and see how quickly it happens for you and interrupt it and just acknowledge it. Don't feel guilty about it, but acknowledging it is the first step of the interruption. And I always thought that was cool.
It's really cool. And when you start doing this, folks, a lot of times people start to think like, oh, it's getting worse, right? Like this is getting, and really it's not that it's getting worse. It's always been that way. It's just that you're noticing it. You're becoming aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're starting with the foundations here, folks. This whole podcast, this is going to be such a massive evolution in this because we evolve. And I've always lived by this piece that's really has helped me, and I hope it helps you all. You're going to be judged no matter what you do. It's guaranteed. I can promise you that.
Right.
People love we're all walking around. We're experiencing, we're perceiving, and we're interpreting. That's what we do as humans. Experience, perceive, interpret. Experience, perceive, interpret over and over again. And there's going to be people that have experiences with you, perceive what you're doing, and interpret what you're doing as not in alignment with what they believe and what their identity is. So it's going to happen. Think of it this way. People are going to judge you if you do start a business or you don't start a business. Oh, I can't believe they didn't do that, right? People are going to judge you whether you try to go get healthy or not get healthy. They're going to judge you for this thing, that thing, and the other thing. And the thing is, you have to make sure that you're always focused on you, right? What's the best for you? What's the right thing for you? Other people's judgment of you is none of your business. So what I realized is that people are going to judge you whether you are not doing what you want and what you're not, not following your dreams, your vision, and your passion for your life.
Mm-hmm.
But they're absolutely going to judge you for following it as well. So you might as well be judged for following your heart and following your passion and following what you really feel like is the right thing for you. The way you eat, the relationships you have, what's right for you, your parenting, right? Your Because parenting. How many of y'all out there have parenting judgment and guilt of yourselves or others, or there's
Right. It's where
that
it
could be,
starts.
yeah. Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
And we just need to know that inside exactly what is the right thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have the right people surrounding you, and that's what Andrea and I are here to try to help create, is a community of people where there's no judgment, there's only discernment, and there's a way for us to support each other and give feedback that's going to be accepted in a way that's not making you feel bad. But the reality is that sometimes when we hear things that we need to hear, it can trigger us, right? Because it's not part of who we are in that moment, right? And it
Right.
can trigger us because maybe it's not what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear.
Right. And also, keep in mind that when you're so in that fear moment of being judged, and like you said, it's going to happen. Ultimately, what it is somebody else may be feeling really uncomfortable because it's forcing them to look at where they're at, and maybe the
Totally.
dreams they're not following, maybe the things that they're doing that they're kind of taking an inventory of, right? And thinking,
Yep.
geez, he or she is doing this, and who do they think they are? But you are also going to have those people who might sit in judgment for a moment, but it may inspire them, and you may never know. It may be someone you don't
Yeah.
even know, right? So detach from the judgment and think, well, geez, maybe somebody will be inspired or motivated by this. And, that's where I've been trying to go since our mental fitness
I love
coaching
it. I love it.
platform has taken off. I've really been trying to go there and have used it in parenting with my son just literally last week. You're making changes in your life, and a lot of young adults are maybe looking at you saying, what are you doing? And that the reason they're in judgment is because they're probably thinking the same thing. What am I doing?
Yeah. That's where a lot of, especially judgment of others, right? It's a reflection of what's going on in the inside of you, right? So that's the thing. And when you're taking it personally, when somebody's judging you, you have to remember that most of what they're sharing with you is their personal experience, opinion, and their interpretation and perception. And I mean, we all have very different perceptions, interpretations, and all of this stuff. We're not all going to agree on everything. I'm excited for the moment Andrea and I don't agree on live right here. Right?
Oh
Because
my God.
then we can have that conversation.
Right.
And it's
Totally.
beautiful, because especially when you do it in a space that's safe, right? When you do it with people that you feel truly connected with and that are safe, that then it allows you to have that dialogue. It allows you to actually have the dialogue and maybe reanalyze things and see differently. We never grow, we never get better in certainty, folks. Like if you think about your life, a lot of it's like it's very like certain. Boom, boom, boom. It's lined up. I bring the kids to here, and then I go and do my work, and then I eat, and then I do more work, and then I pick the kids up. Every day seems a lot of times it's the same thing over and over again. And we can find that we are getting stuck in the familiar past that's creating this predictable future. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, it's like that's what happens to us because we're running on autopilot a lot of the times. You ever driven somewhere and then all of a sudden you're like, how did I get here?
Right. All the time.
All the time. And I think that happens in life too.
Mhm.
It happens in life. We all of a sudden wake up and we're like, how did I get here?
Right.
How did I get here? So if you are here now with Andrea and I, you're here for a reason, folks. You're here for a reason. you know that there's more. Like there's all types of weight that hold us back in our lives. All types of weight. We started with judgment and comparison. And we could go deep into all these. And I'm sure we'll probably do a part 2 just around judgment and just around comparison, because those are concepts that we can go really deep into. And we want to just start scratching the surface in all of these things and evolve with you. So if you come on this journey with us, I'm so excited because I'm always a different coach every 6 months, a year, So like we may look back and be like, we may judge this episode.
I'm sure we will.
What were we doing? But the thing is that we're doing it out of a different way. It's discernment. It's out of love. We took the leap because we know that there's so many people out there that need an alternative to a lot of the health and mindset and body image stuff and just all of this stuff. And if you're searching for that right now, you're in the right place, because what we hope to do here is help you see this a little bit differently, help you examine this a little bit differently. And if it doesn't, that's okay, right? We're not for everybody. If you're judging us right now.
I don't know, Matt. I think that we definitely need to have a part 2.
We'll absolutely have a part 2 of this.
Yeah.
Absolutely have a part 2. We want you to just start with the awareness piece. Step 1 today. And I think the big takeaway, Andrew, you let me know what you think, but I feel like the takeaway that I want people to walk away from this podcast episode, number 1, is start bringing awareness to the judgment and comparisons that you're making, and do it with discernment. Do it with love. Don't judge yourself on judging and comparing yourself and others and your circumstance, because where you are right now is not where you need to stay.
Right.
We're going to be here to help you rise.
Right.
What's your feelings on that?
I love that. And I just want to add, where you're at right now is on purpose.
Yes.
You're there for part of the story. Everybody has the moment where they either want to make a shift. And if that's you, then that we are talking to you, because that's ultimately what we're about, is making shifts. Yeah.
The lessons. I think that was huge. Mm-hmm. It's the lessons. You are where you are right now because there's lessons that you're supposed to be learning these things, right? Mm-hmm. Whenever I have a bad day, I always say, instead of saying it's a bad day, it's a character building day. There's a teaching going on in those days, right?
Like a true parent would say.
It's an absolute parent thing to say. That's such a parent thing to say. That's a character building day. But it just helps me get through those moments in those times, and just being in love with what is happening in the moment. Because Andrea, you're at almost the tail end of this parenting thing. Mine are 3 and 8 years old, and right. It goes like that.
I know. I always laugh when I say to a mom, I'm going to be that lady that says, it's going to go by in a blink. And I always laugh, and they look at me like, yeah, lady, you're the 25th person that said that to me today.
Yeah.
But it is so true. And, so many people, they end their days, their journey. And I'm confident that they look back and think about all the opportunities missed because of judgment.
Totally.
So, this is a ride to be enjoyed, and it's time to break free of all that stuff.
Yeah. So end your day with focusing on your wins versus the judgments, right? So many of us go to sleep with the negative mental piece, and it just keeps repeating the next morning. So be aware, folks. Start capturing all of that and keep coming back, because we're going to be here to help you break through a lot of this stuff. This is just the beginning. So we want to thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this and you enjoyed our podcast, please go on and rate and recommend on wherever you get it, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're seeing this. And if you want more information about Andrea or I and just want to chat, you can get more information at my website, www.thepotentialyou.com. And we really look forward to continuing to bring more and more value, more and more content. And if you have anything that you feel like you would love for us to speak on or topic, you can absolutely email me at matt@thepotentialyou.com, and it's the potential-u.com. And we will gladly speak to whatever you're working with, whatever you're dealing with. What's the weight that's holding you back? Because we want to help you rise out of that. So thank you so much for showing up with us today, and we will see you on the next episode.